This episode just changed our marriage for the better. So we all know that running a business together while running a family can be overwhelming. But what if there's a simple solution to keep things organized while staying connected?
In this episode, there's a ton of what I love to call life hacks that are going to impact your marriage, your kids, and I believe your future. On the show, we have April and Eric Perry. These two run Learn, Do, Become, and they've worked with hundreds of thousands of families to shift things for the better. So take a listen. We are literally meeting right after the show just to go over some of the stuff we just heard and how we can implement that in our lives because we know it's going to be so powerful. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Today we have a very special guest and friend. We recently had the privilege of having these two over to our house. It was so fun just to actually hang out on the couch and talk entrepreneurship, talk family, talk marriage. These two have really pioneered a lot of really cool things and impacted a lot of lives along the way. But in that, they've really protected their family connection. And that's really what we want this show to be about, is having them just share a little bit of their journey, what's worked so well for their family, and how you can do that for your family too. So welcome to the show, April and Eric Perry.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, so I would love to hear from you guys. Do you feel like you guys were born entrepreneurs, or do you feel like this was something that you kind of learned later in life?
Well, I think Eric kind of was a little bit more. Do you want to talk about him?
I mean, I think we're kind of born and kind of raised into different situations. I grew up on a family fruit farm. And so sometimes we would truck our fruit out of the hometown we were in up into neighboring cities and states. And so we would sell door to door from the roadside. I learned watching my dad how to sell fruit and try to clear the load and, be able to get back home. I don't know. I mean, just watching that kind of developed maybe some things in me, but I could see that if you figured out how to say things better, communicate better, present your product better, you could sell and then offer a great product and stuff. So I wouldn't say I was naturally born in entrepreneurship, but I think you develop that ability, that inclination, seeing what's possible, and that gets you excited to move into stuff. But April maybe is a little different.
Well, I was more of a writer when I was little. I had little notebooks I'd carry around. When I was 6 years old. I'd write stories, and I started submitting to magazines when I was, in middle school, that type of thing. So stories and writing were important to me, and creativity was important to me. So I started, a blog and started writing, just doing things that I loved. And so what ended up happening is I got really into organization, and I just wanted to tell people about it. So I was teaching classes just for free and talking to everyone about it. And Eric was able to see my passion and see how we could actually serve more people if we made it something that was sustainable. So it was really out of my comfort zone, to be honest. Now I feel really good about it because I don't feel salesy. I feel like I just get to offer a product if people want it. And that it feels natural. So now I feel like entrepreneurship is actually one of my passions, but it wasn't easy to come by.
But I think that might actually be a good point for the audience and your community watching this, that you can come from whatever background, but if you have something that really is, your heart is really in, and you want to be able to serve people, you can find a way for it to serve the community that it's going to attract and create an entrepreneurial opportunity out of that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So it kind of started for you, April, just sharing on a blog, just kind of putting out what you were doing. It was so fun. We had one of our team members who she's on our leadership team now. She is so awesome. And we shared a video with her that I think you created. We're in a coaching group together, and you had shared a video with the group. And so I shared this with one of our team members, and she was like, "Oh, I totally went through April's program, X amount of years back." So it was so cool to see how we both, in our business and your business, we're kind of serving sometimes the same person, just in different ways. And what was that first kind of big step into entrepreneurship? What was the program about? How did it help your audience?
Yeah, so we help people to create what I call command central. So how if you were, part of mine's behind me. Some of it's digital, some of it's on a planner and Google Calendar and things like that. But I found that I was often really kind of stressed and overwhelmed by all the tasks and the little things to do. And, if most people go to an office supply store, they come home with a bunch of pretty boxes and then they just fill them up with more stuff and they don't really have a system. So especially for women, I find that our brains kind of circle, all the stuff you need to do. And it's hard to be present with your spouse or with your children because there's so much going on. So when I read the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen, I stayed in my pajamas for a week, served cereal for dinner, and I built my whole system. I got all my emails to zero. I cleaned everything in my house. And I was walking around my house, literally looking for something to do because everything was done. And I'd never had that feeling ever. And I'd grown up in a house with just tons of piles of stuff and we had no system. So it was the weirdest thing to me, but it gave me freedom. So I started teaching people how to do it. And at first it was a 30-page PDF. And we said, you can either buy it for $30 or tell 30 friends about it and get it free. So we had people telling, their friends or, sometimes buying it. And then people were like, well, I need to see some videos, or can I have some pictures, or can you show me more how to do it? And I didn't even have a login. We just had a PayPal button. I mean, we didn't know how to do it. And so it was totally just organic, trying to just serve people and answer their questions. And it was fun, but Eric was the one who helped me say, okay, let's actually look at this like a business, because you're kind of getting tired just doing a lot of stuff, Well,
we reached out to a community that she built, serving mothers and stuff and helping them find that power, nobility, and motherhood. And I think we've done 3 or 4 or 5 live classes to that audience. But at some point, you kind of reach the end of that. And then we realized that if we could run, some paid ads either through Facebook or Instagram, we'd find other people who weren't aware of us yet, who would have that interest in a class or that approach. And so we kind of figured out a very simple, again, this was probably 6-7 years ago or more, but a simple model to bring in those people who are interested and teach those live classes to them. And then make that offer. Again, nothing salesy, nothing pushy, but to offer, if you'd like to work more with us or learn more about this system, we have these 2 options that you could choose from. And that really is what I think changed it. It became really exciting because we saw that we could attract the people who really were excited about what we had to offer and we could help. And it was just this great exchange of, time and money for the services and the training and the results they would get.
And they'd send us pictures of their Command Central, and then all these testimonials started coming in and they're sharing stories. And they're like, I even just had another baby because I had bandwidth. And I'm like, look,
Wow.
Eric, we're helping people.
That's not something we advertise will happen anymore.
But it started to become really positive. And we did all of it debt-free. We wanted to keep it super simple. We only did what worked. We were, little bets, like little steps at a time.
Yeah.
But it just started growing and growing and growing to the point where we couldn't say, like we knew this is our purpose. Like this has a life beyond just,
Yeah, and I kind of had that again for those watching, that I think that's a good model. Like do these tiny bets, like small investments of time and money, rather than throwing down heavy, and see what's working, right? And what your audience or what your community will respond to. Because then you're not too much at risk, and then you're never really kind of running those financial other risks, like getting over leverage and stuff like that.
That can stress a marriage out if you feel like you have all this, debt or pressure. And so we were able to do it in a way that felt good to us. And we, we watch each other as we went, make sure we were doing all right.
That's amazing. I love how you just touched a little bit about kind of your entrepreneurial journey, talking about like, are we born this way? Did it grow? And I love how your business just grew organically and out of that desire to help people. I want to hear from you guys a little bit more. I love the longer that I'm a mom, the more I realize how I need systems for almost everything. And I think before I was a mom, I would just, hope and wish that like on this day these things would get done, or like spontaneous like friend groups would just pop up and happen. And the longer that we're in business together and being parents, I'm like, we need systems and structure so that my brain doesn't keep spinning like you just talked about, April. So I know you guys, I love how you help women and moms like declutter, and you're talking about that Command Central. So what is the Command Central? Like how do you teach people from that to kind of figure out the systems?
Yeah. Okay. So
twist it?
Yeah, I'll show you my my diagram. We actually printed this out on a canvas. Well, and I know it looks a little crazy. I actually started out drawing all of this with markers and then taking pictures. Like everything started hand drawn.
And our original community wants us to bring back a lot of those original diagrams because that's what they fell in love with. Right? The homespun program, right?
I love it.
So the short answer is
we do have a visual on YouTube, but definitely talk through it for our audio people too, so they don't FOMO too hard. They can see this awesome diagram.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically a diagram with 4 columns. And on the far left, we have all the stuff that comes into your life. So like mail or text or, reminders, ideas, your kids bring a backpack home full of stuff, Post-it notes, things like that. Like all of us have stuff. And typically this is what's going to end up in piles all over your counter or all over your desk. And most people live in piles. And that's how I used to live.
For us, it's the
So
stairs.
then we have the other
we have
three.
the pile on the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we've had people with full bathrooms they don't even use anymore because they're full of their
Oh my
piles. I mean,
goodness.
it's the number of places people hide their piles. It's actually the trunk of the car. I mean, it's
pretty
funny.
humorous. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then the rest of the Command Central, we have it just organized by daily, weekly, or as needed. So the daily things, that's essentially your brain just needs to know what can your brain just needs to know what do I focus on a daily basis, because you can't look at every pile and every list and everything every day. It's too much for your brain to process. So that's where it's like a super simple calendar, a very simple, flexible, we call it the next actions list. This is from David Allen, Getting Things Done. We do keep our emails at 0 every day, and we clear the landing spots. So your daily list is something that becomes very, very doable, and your brain just feels open. And that's what enables you to have more creativity and get more stuff done. And then we encourage the weekly review. And I just put in here, like, that's where you clean out your inbox or review your current projects list, routines, some weighting and goals and review. These are just little components of things where you can put something as you're processing and know you're going to get to it. And then as needed is my favorite, because there's these 5 parts of the system: your filing, support materials, tickler, someday, and incubation. And those 5 things, when you're processing and you put your stuff there, you don't have to think about them at all, because if you ever need them, they're either referenced on a calendar trigger or they're part of a project you're going to get to when it's the right time. So essentially you can put all the piles into this, Command Central, and then it comes back to
and they disappear.
When you need it. The piles disappear, but it's not out of sight, out of mind.
Over here is where most people are keeping their piles.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if I put that away somewhere, I'll never remember. I'll never come back to that. I'll lose that idea. And this system literally allows you to have every good idea and everything you want to really care about now or in the future in a safe place, but it doesn't have to be out. It can be ready to reference whenever you need it.
And that's what was the big aha for me, is that I could put something out of sight and feel 100% safe. And that's what most people don't know how to do. But the thing is, most people have a filing cabinet and piles, and that's it. So if you think, well, I have to file everything, you won't, because you're like, well, I need that for the project, or that's for next week, or that's for the doctor appointment. And so you end up with your fridge covered, and, stuff everywhere. And the thing is, I'm very passionate about this, because most people don't know how much that actually weighs on them. And they don't know there's an alternative that's possible. And so when we show them, you can actually feel calm and relaxed every day, even while you're running a business or running a family or, taking care of yourself. That's like an aha moment for a lot of people. And that's what I get excited about.
I think one of the most exciting parts for us in the community we serve, and yes, the business we run, is we'll on the daily get numerous posts and emails with people's like testimonials or just success stories. And we love when they share like before and after pictures of either them, whatever space they were working in, now this Command Central built, or a room. I kind of like in the Command Central like a pool filter. Once you've built it, the whole rest of your life, the rooms in your home, everything in your life kind of flows through this filter, and it comes out clean and organized and clear, right? And so people will tell us about the spaces in which they live that are much more organized and clear. But then it's cool, because then it's the experiential and the relational stories that come out of that.
Yeah.
How their lives, how their relationships are just that much better, because there's that freedom, that kind of clarity in their minds and in their lives to experience the results they want.
What would you tell a mom, or maybe something that you do, April, when you're starting to feel, I know you have great systems, but like, are there ever moments where you're starting to feel a little overwhelmed, or there's like one task that has been like eating at you? Like, what do you do? What are some steps to like decide, do I spend, the next couple hours trying to figure this out, or how do I like create the mental space if I need to move on?
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. So first of all, we talk about a current projects list. Typically, if there's something that's overwhelming you right now, and I'm sure for those listening, they're thinking everyone can come up with at least one thing that's overwhelming them, that they're maybe procrastinating or they're worrying about or something like that. So the first question is this one of your top 7 or 8 projects for the month? because most people are trying to do 50 to 100 projects at the same time. And so, of course, a portion of those are going to feel overwhelming and you can't do all of them. So you're going to procrastinate 99% of them. So,
well, just to clarify, with our approach, we recommend nobody is working on more than 8 current projects at a time. Mm-hmm. That's how we overwhelm ourselves. So that feels like, but no, I have 20 things I have to get done this month. And we promise you that if you're focused on 20 or 50 things this month, none of them will get across the finish line.
Right.
If you step back and you focus on 8 or fewer a month, you're getting 96 or more. Because when you finish a project, you can pick up a new one. But you're getting 96 or more projects a year, which is way more progress than most people make if they'll take that smaller, more bite-sized approach.
Yeah, and we recommend with those 7 to 8 projects, you have it by personal projects and then family projects and then like we call beyond category. So that's like volunteer or business.
Work or beyond.
And so first I would say, okay, is this one of your projects for this month? And it could be next in line. You don't have to have it for this month, but if it is one of those, then the question is, okay, well, what's that next action? And this is what David Allen's book taught me. That was an aha for me because Eric and I had been starting a different business. We were running together and I was procrastinating it every day. I would just sit and watch TV and I'm like, I don't even know where to start. This thing's going to take me, 80 hours and I don't have that much time in one sitting. And so you ask like, what's that next thing you could do in 10 minutes that would move it forward? That feels so easy. You couldn't procrastinate if you tried. And it's typically something very simple like, okay, we're just going to brainstorm all the things that we need to do. Just get it out on paper. Or, oh, there's this one email I need to send or one thing I need to Google or whatever. And so when you can figure out that very, very next action and then figure out, okay, is that something I do now? Or is that something I'm going to calendar or put on my next actions list? We show you where to put it. But when you have clarity, just imagine if everyone in the world knew the 7 or 8 projects they are working on right now, they knew the next action and they had it organized. Yeah, the next action for each one. And they had it organized so they could do it in the flow of their lives. I think this would change the world. Mm-hmm. I know it would change the world.
She's not passionate about this at all.
Man, it is so powerful because like, I love that. Like if I have 10 minutes, how can I move forward? Like what's something I can do in 10 minutes that I know I can win at? And I think that's such a good thing to write on a Post-it note, stick on your desk. Maybe that's not the right place for it. But wherever you need it. I don't know if that follows the commands and rules.
So she's saying no Post-its.
Well, and just that point, those 10 minutes, we sometimes overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a lifetime, right? With an approach like this, even 10 minutes, we call those microbursts. Mm-hmm. When that little window or that island opens up, especially in the life of a parent, especially a mom, the way this kind of next actions list is designated, you have each next action in its context. So it might be your computer time, it might be phone calls, it might be while you're out running errands. So if these couple projects, their next action is an errand, while you're out running errands for the kid or with the kids, you go knock out those two items, and now you're a step ahead on these 2 projects. So again, we go into more details. We kind of explain in a free class we offer. But when people can have that approach, you literally in just the flow of your day are making substantial progress, getting actions done on every project. And again, like April has hers written on the board on the wall, often before even near the end of the month, all 8 of those projects are done. And she's maybe replaced them with a couple of additional projects that she knows she can finish before the month end. And so you just feel that dramatic progress, right? That sense, okay, we're moving things forward, the things that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for you visually, you said a board. Is this like a whiteboard? Is it like a big old notebook? What does it look like?
For the people on video, I could kind of show the board. It's a little chalkboard.
Oh, okay.
I have it organized.
Like 16 by 20 chalkboard.
Yeah, I use a chalkboard.
Something simple.
I used to have a whiteboard. And so we use Asana in our business and I use that personally as well. So I also have those written in Asana with next actions. But for me, I like having color and having it on my board. And then Eric knows too, every time he or a family member, my office is kind of in a loft area. The family walks through all the time. And so everyone can see what I'm working on that month. And it feels good to me. And it almost feels like magic because as I'm writing it down, I know I'm either going to complete them or make significant progress, or if my life changes, then I'll erase it and move that to next in line and make it more doable. But it feels really empowering because what I used to do is just write long lists and then get none of it done. And then I'd beat myself up over it, even though I was doing a lot of good things. And that's what I notice is a lot of people, men and women, beat themselves up when they don't get done what they want. And, your confidence kind of decreases. You think, well, why should I try? Why should I set a goal when I'm just not going to do it?
And then they go rewrite that same list the next day or the next week, and then they don't make that progress. And again, it just becomes deflating.
You just stop. And then that's when people kind of get paralyzed,
And this approach shifts that for sure.
Have you seen this like with your kids? Do you do like a similar model with them and even their goals or their things that they want to move towards in life?
Yes, absolutely. So some of our children are more interested in organizing than others. So I need to be clear about that. We've taught them all how to organize and they all know how to use the system within the family. But for their own needs, it's, individualized, which I think is great. Eric, it's individualized too.
Well, I actually said it even applies to spouses, right? Because maybe one of the spouses is more inclined toward organization. One is organized, but not as much. And so I think with every couple,
I'm pointing at Chelsea.
It's an important distinction, right? For everyone listening, absolutely. For every couple, kind of there might be one who's more the lead on it. But what we tell all of our community members who come into our community is, do your thing, right? Do it to the best of your ability. What you'll notice is that it rubs off on that other spouse, your children. It'll have that radiation effect. And, some of your children might just spring right into it, and other children or a spouse might take a little bit more time. But what's cool about this STEP program, our approach, is that it really is customizable to the approach and the way that person works. And so I do the STEP system probably about 80% in the way that April does it. And then 20% I maybe have adjusted and kind of made it flexible to my approach. If that makes sense.
Well, and our oldest daughter actually is our main project manager in our business. Yeah. Oh, wow. She's 22. And so she runs it. She's got it and she's coaches and she's
kind of become a mini version of April.
And she created a program for students, teaching them how. She was 16 and she sat down with videos and showed them all the printouts.
That's amazing.
So she did it. And, her Google Drive is beautiful. Her emails are beautiful. She taught college students how to organize projects.
And now she coaches our whole community.
Yeah. So she loves it. Our second daughter also is very organized. She loved her planner, the next actions list, but of course, until you kind of get to adulthood where you're managing a lot of other people and things like that, you can usually have a pretty simple system. You don't need something very complicated. So for our youngest boys, I think the biggest thing I've seen from them is their ability to know how to clean something, how to keep things organized, and how to be able to tell where things go. They keep the house, clean. They know how to
and also how to break a project or something they need to do into smaller steps, right? Because a lot of times for a teenager, that can be the overwhelming piece. You've got this big term project, or
go get a job.
One of our sons is working on an Eagle Scout project, and he's learned how to break it down into its component pieces so it doesn't feel as overwhelming, so it gets done. So I think it's just teaching your children, teenagers or younger children, at the level they're able to understand and give them a simple approach.
Well, one fun story. So our son moved out of the house when he turned 18 and he moved into a new apartment. And we teach, the concept of microbursts, which is, 10 minutes, focused activity. You can do that in a bedroom, with a project, kitchen, whatever. And so he had a roommate who was really messy and just stuff was everywhere. And he said, hey, I actually taught my roommate about microbursts, and we did 10 minutes at a time, and we got his whole side of the room clean. And I'm not saying, our kids keep everything spotless, but it was just awesome because his roommate had been overwhelmed by it. He wanted to clean. He was just feeling overwhelmed. And so just that concept of microbursts, I'm just imagining these two, college boys doing microbursts. That made me happy.
It's a Jedi mind trick.
That's amazing. I love that so much. I feel like I think Chelsea and I could definitely, we should go through your class. I feel like
we need to.
We do a little bit, and that little bit helps. Even just doing mail, I don't know if you have a recommended, hey, this is for everyone. Everyone should do mail. This, but for us, we do it once a week. It's just Sunday nights. We kind of just let the mail pile up in a certain place that's a little bit out of sight. And then Sunday nights is let's open the mail. We don't have a ton of super time urgent mail that comes, physical mail. It's typically advertisements, but it's nice to just do it one time after the boys are bed, Sunday night. We just open it up, throw it away, keep the stuff that's important and put that in a separate pile, usually on the stairs. So that's where, it could probably improve. But that one thing has been so nice to not have to do it every day and just kind of, but is there anything else like that practical where it's hey, there's one step you could take in the right direction, for a family that's listening, that you see people are like, oh my gosh, I never thought to do that once a month or once a week or however you have it systematized?
Well, I think what you just explained is beautiful, because I think the question is what we're doing right now completely calming our mind so that we're not putting any extra bandwidth toward it? And if the answer is yes, awesome. Great. I won't suggest any changes in that. Like, one thing for us that's worked is we have a Friday morning meeting. It's on the calendar at 10:30. Sometimes I'm late to it if I schedule something else. But it's our couple planning meeting. Do you want to tell a little bit how we do
Yeah,
that?
I was going to say, we'll offer a few suggestions of things that we've been doing that might be helpful in just the home and family life, but also for those who are entrepreneurs. So we'll add a few other tips and ideas as we go if you'd like us to. Maybe before I get to the Friday thing, the mail thing, like I actually, as a kid growing up, loved mail, right? So I'm the only one who goes to the mailbox. April could care less about the mail.
I don't even know which mailboxes are ours.
But Stephen Covey, the Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits guy, actually said, handle everything just once, right? And so I'll go out to the mail just on my way in each day, and I'll open the mailbox. And as I'm walking into the house, we get not a whole lot either, and it's not very important. But by the time I moved from our mailbox, which is just in front of our house, up to the door, I pretty much looked at all of it. And most of the advertisements are going to recycling. And the one or two things that need attention, she has a little inbox right here. I have one in mine. And it just goes right there and it's done, right? And so but I love your idea. If it's once a week and you're not missing any key deadlines or things like that, great, right? But it's just develop a simple process that serves you. For our weekly kind of planning meeting, what we like to look at is just kind of sit down for maybe 15 minutes. And on a Thursday or Friday, we like to look at the next 10 days. We can kind of really plan out either activities or dates, any kind of business things that we need, but we kind of do a quick review of the calendar together about what's coming up day by day, and just identify those big rocks that we want to make sure in our week, the next 10 days coming up. And it's been really helpful to kind of plan kind of some individual time and couple time and activities, family events and activities, things we'll do on weekends, and then any kind of key business items. But literally within about a 15-minute window every Friday, we are 10 days out, well planned, and have things kind of structured so that we can do the things we value.
Well, and because I know it's a Friday when we're going to have a conversation, I mean, I do like a paper planner. If someone does a digital planner, you could just do a digital note. But I could just go to my Friday page, and if I have any agenda items that I want to discuss, I can add to it throughout the week. And then when we do sit down, it's like, okay, here, here's what I need. Sometimes if there's something that I know is going to need a little more thought, I'll put a little note on the fridge, or I'll email him in advance and say, here's the agenda items I want to talk about tomorrow, just so you could be thinking about it. Because we found if we try to sit down and talk through a lot of heavy stuff or, complicated things, then our meeting takes like an hour and then we don't want to do it. So anything we can do to keep the meeting really short, then we're like, okay, power meeting.
And that refrigerator agenda may sound funny, but literally if there's a few things that you want your spouse or partner to be thinking about, just put them up there, because every time they're going to the fridge for food or a snack, they see it. It's in the back of their mind. It's percolating. So when you get to that meeting,
you're not blindsided.
You kind of both have some thoughts like, oh, well, here's what I was thinking, or here's an approach I think might work really well. And it just really helps that creativity and that communication blossom even more. One other kind of a couple funny things I'll just share since we're on this topic of couple coordination. We have some friends who suggested, I'm sure maybe you've had the same experience when you're talking about all the things going on in your lives, but also your business. You get to that point where you kind of burn out, like the business conversation, like I'm done talking about the business, the team, all the activities, the structure, the systems. And so they suggested having a word that just signals we're done having the business talk, right? And so ours is rutabaga, and it can be just make it a fun word. So it could be rutabaga, glockenspiel, whatever you want, googly moogly. But just as you're talking, you're like, I love you, but rutabaga. They're like, okay. And you just kind of go and you have some kind of family or couples time and just leave the business stuff for the next day when you're more rested. Another thing is we used to share a desk, in our previous home. We had kind of a partner desk. We sat across from each other, working on stuff, working on emails or writing or things like that. And we'd have this little stress ball pineapple that we'd have sitting in between us, right? So it's like this little squishy stress ball pineapple, but it was kind of an interruption avoider that when you wanted the other spouse's attention, you just kind of set it on its side on the desk. And that would kind of be like a visual signal that when that spouse came to a stopping point, they'd say, okay, yeah, what do you need? Right?
So we were interrupting each other all day saying, wait, hang on, do you want, because we were right next to each other.
So if there's any couples out there working in tight spaces, maybe figure out a few of those cues, verbal or visual, that help you stay in the flow of what you need to do to get the work done. but still preserve the relationship.
But
right?
it worked really well. It was actually funny. Like we turned the pineapple and then, I always felt kind of happy.
You guys don't realize how good of tips you are giving us. So I love the pineapple thing on the desk because right now we have a big office, but we share it. And so oftentimes, and I know a little bit more now, like when Steven's deep in thought, usually it's like hey, when you get a second, but I love the like not even saying that and just putting something next to Steven's desk. So I think we're definitely going to implement that. Right. And then for us, I feel like we kind of have like a Friday morning thing, but ours has been on Sundays, but I like having it on Saturday because then you go into the weekend and oftentimes it's like, thinking about it in advance. But I know that I need that. Like Steven's like, I don't need to know. I can just show up the morning of. And I'm like, well, there's more things involved than that. So I know like we've implemented that, but I've never like verbally said like, this is what we're doing. I think it would be helpful for us to like, marriage counseling right here, business counseling.
I know
we're
doing
on the
these
podcast live, but we need that.
It sounds a lot like April and Chelsea are the ones that are keeping Stephen and I on right? Moving along. The reason I love that Friday, that early in the weekend, because you're looking out at 2 weekends, right? Yeah. So you're kind of confirming like, what are our plans for Friday, Saturday night? If we have social plans or things, and you're kind of already pre-planning the week ahead, the weekend ahead. So you have time to reach out to people you'd like to spend time. Like it just really helps create more and to structure well who and what you want to have in those experiences, right? Those gatherings.
I love the 10 days instead of 7. I think that's genius. And and having an appointed time every week, I think really reduces the overload in the week. Because I think sometimes like for us, it's like work is happening and then like the kids are down and then it's like brain dump every night of like, all these things, right? But having one time where it's like, not say you can't do that if something's urgent or it's like, we need to do this tonight, that's totally fine. But having a place to go in my notebook right here, I put my, like, this is our things I'm going to talk about on Friday. I think that's genius because then it's off your mind and it's in something, you're not going to lose it. And there's a time where it's going to be handled and you guys will be able to have a conversation about it. So super helpful tips. I love the visual thing as well because I'm very much so the in the flow. Like if I'm in the zone, I'm writing something or I'm like, do not interrupt me, And so having the visual, I love that because then it's like, because we want to love our spouse, especially in business. And I forget who it was say this. He's like, whenever my wife asks me for something, I always just don't do it immediately. And I was like, wow, that sounds so amazing. But it's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're in the moment. Yeah. But it is so powerful. And it's such a way to love each other and, make sure like it's not the business is over you. Like it's not like I prioritize the business over Chelsea, right? I always want to be able to say, no, I can cancel this meeting if you need help with the boys right now. I never want her to feel lower than the business, right? And same with her to me. And so that's such a powerful way to like love each other in such a graceful way. So I love that tip. We're definitely we need some sort of cool thing, some cool stress toy.
I have one more question that I would kind of love to end with. When you guys came to our house, we had such an amazing time chatting. April, you shared one thing specific that you did with your kids as they were growing up, as far as like getting chores done around the house and spending time with them. Will you share what you did? I've been trying to implement that with Kaizen, and this is a reminder of it, but I love how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my main rule is that I didn't do housework alone. I always planned on doing housework alongside our children. And so this was mostly, Eric was working a full-time job outside the home until our youngest was in kindergarten. But we have 4 children, and so we had 4 children within about 8 years. So it was just a lot of managing laundry and dishes and people and groceries and, all this stuff. And so, but from the time we had our first child, I'd taken a course in college on relationships and work in the home. And the main theme of the class is that your values are transferred during mundane work and your relationships are built during the mundane work. It's while your hands are in this dish suds together or while you're unloading groceries and talking and just while you're together, that's where you build that closeness. And so our little girl, like when it was time to take trash out, when she was 1, she would go around with me and we'd pick up the waste baskets and put them in the bag together. All of the kids unloaded dishes together. It was funny because we have a messenger group in Facebook that all 6 of us are in, 7 of us. We have a son-in-law now. And so we all are sharing pictures and stories. And this past week, our daughter shared a video showing everyone folding laundry together, unloading the dishes together. And we turn on music and kind of dance. And and even like making the beds together, And so, they had their chores, like make your own bed or things like that. But if I needed to make my bed, they would do it with me because it's faster and like, kind of fun. Or we'd fold blankets together and give each other a kiss whenever the fold came, or things like that. And so I just thought of housework like it was an activity. It was a relationship building activity. And I didn't ever feel like, oh man, the house is a mess. Because it wasn't. Like, we would clean together, and our kids didn't do a ton of extracurricular activities, and we didn't run ourselves crazy, but we really worked together a lot, and it was just part of the family culture. And so I feel like it not only helped keep the house organized, it really helped us build those relationships, and it taught our children the skills so that when we needed help, they knew what to do.
And I just add, it may not always be the most, like she said, it's faster to make her bed together with them. Doing stuff with your children
like a 2-year-old, maybe
is not always the most efficient, most productive, right? There's probably a faster way to do it yourself, or to even hire somebody else to come do it occasionally. But I think there's that balance, right, of finding the time and doing that enough with them where these values are transmitted, that relationship is built. Mm-hmm. And there's something really kind of special and kind of powerful. Like and you can have a lot of fun doing things that way. Like I wasn't there often for these because I was working outside the home at the time. When they do laundry parties, our youngest was probably like 2 or 3, and he'd want to take a pair of like his underwear and put on his head like a hat while they're folding stuff. And then he'd try to get his siblings to do the same thing, like you're wearing underwear on your head while you're folding laundry, right? And so it became like this funny, kind of quirky.
We all did it.
Family member. We don't still do that, but when they were little kids, it was a way to make that work fun.
Yeah,
like very popular, like awesome. That spoonful of sugar. So I think you can find ways to make the work fun, to have it create those relationships. And maybe just one other thing I just add in on that is, especially as spouses are working to build a business, if they're becoming entrepreneurial, it's that finding the balance that's right for them, both in the business, but also in the home. And I think, as we've been fortunate because a lot of April's interests, passions, and skill sets align pretty well with my skills, my interests. Mm-hmm. Like I do more of the back office stuff, finance, accounting, some marketing and strategy. She's more of the creative, the content, the teacher. So we can kind of find ways in the business to have these, and sometimes they're hard conversations to figure out who's doing what, how's that going to be? And maybe there's a role that isn't well covered. We need to find that somewhere else. So that's the entrepreneurial side. But I think on the home and family front, when I was able to start working from home, I took over the laundry responsibility. So I'm not trying to throw Steven under the bus. You guys figure out what's right for you. But it's been, and I
he's really good at laundry.
I'm decent at laundry, and I clean a bathroom pretty well. I was my mom's best bathroom cleaner as a kid growing up. But so Thursdays are our laundry day, and I've designated myself the laundry emperor. And as long as the children have their stuff, where it needs to be in their bins and stuff, like I can get it washed and cleaned and folded pretty quickly. But, then she'll take care of like our food and groceries and stuff. So it's kind of this division of labor. And I say that because I think that's important. Sometimes we have mothers and women who take on an awful lot of the load in all things, right? That's just kind of maybe a lot of the nature. We take care of things. We get things done. And I think as spouses and partners, we can do a lot to have that conversation to figure out, okay, which parts can I take on and do well to kind of lighten the load, to share the load. And I think we can incorporate our children into that. But as we do that, I think you see your family and your marriage and your family grow into not only your business, but you grow into success in the life that you want to create. So that's been kind of fun and helpful for us.
Thank you guys for sharing. This was such a inspirational, but actionable episode. I know families all over me listening to this and not only taking action, but wanting to learn more. So where can families connect with you guys? I know you mentioned you have a free class. I know you guys also have a podcast as well. So where can people connect with you? What's the best place for them to go?
Yeah. learndobecome.com/connect.
Okay.
That has
awesome.
The ways to connect. So that's a great word. Yeah. And it's learn, do, become with a D. Some people ask learn to become, which
learning,
that sounds
doing,
good too.
And becoming. Learn, do, become.
Yes, but we're grateful for the great work you guys are doing. I love watching you take care of each other. What a great environment you're creating for your children and your family, and what you're doing to help encourage other families too. Because I think anytime you're trying to support your family, pay the bills, take care of the kids, take care of all the stuff, there can be a lot of pressure. It can feel stressful. And I think when you have people who are going through it with you and showing you what's working and encouraging you, you know, on the days that are hard, we've had plenty of hard days. We're like, should we just turn it all off? Like, can we do this anymore? You know, we've definitely had those days. But like you guys, it's so great seeing you taking care of each other. And likewise, we take care of each other. And when you do that, I think it ends up being an amazing experience that you just feel so grateful for the opportunity to do it. So anyway, thanks for letting us share.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys so much.
Welcome. Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a strategy call with one of our coaches.
If you want to do that, go to makeItRainMama.com/podcast. That's mama, MOMMA. MakeItRainMama.com/podcast. And you can check out the case study of our Rainmaker program, as well as book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our coaches.